Yo, what's up, YouTube? Alright, so today I'm making another video. I ended the last video off like I was, my last video I touched on the perks and how my perk habit got like through the roof, and I couldn't find it one day, so I ended up hanging out with the wrong people, being around the wrong shit. I ended up giving in and snorting a line of, heroin in Baltimore. The only, there is no tar. It's just powder, China white shit. Number 4, heroin from Afghan. But now it's all fentanyl. There is still some dope, but it's really, really hard to find. You gotta know somebody, you have to have a number. People aren't just on the corner with real dope. If you come in cold cop in Baltimore, you're gonna get fentanyl and probably trank. For sure, it's just gonna be fentanyl. You're not gonna get no real dope. There might be 1 or 2 spots out of 80 spots in the city that have dope. Some traces of dope in the supply, but this is so hard to find. And if you're using fentanyl, the heroin's not even going to get you high, which is crazy to think. Heroin can't even get you high. Growing up, heroin was so taboo and a crazy thing. And to think now with fentanyl and everything, and the supply is real fucked up. So it fucks up everybody's tolerance, and then everybody's stuck on that shit. That's why everybody in Kensington is real bad on the trank, because once your body gets adapted to that certain drug, you need that drug. You can't go get another form of that drug. Some people that have to go to the same block, they can't even go to another block 3 blocks around the corner and get a bag of the same drug that's being marketed, but because the mix is different or the cut is different, or the trank, whatever it is that they're addicted to, they have to go to that certain bag. But okay, so I started my first line of dope, and it was 2016. I want to say 2017. I'm gonna say 2000. End of 2016, beginning of 2017. I had a 2-year pill phase. It wasn't a phase. It was a real serious problem, and a foreseeing of which was much worse to come. But I can use this all now as my testimony to get my message out there to help persuade the youth, because my whole point in this is, growing up, I played football. I got moved out of the hood at a young age, and I was going to a decent high school, out in the suburbs. I had no reason to become a dope fiend. I was not molested as a kid, or even abused. Yeah, my mom was on drugs, and I was left to fend for myself a lot. I was neglected, but it's not a reason to. There's no reason to become a drug addict, but a lot of the reasons that people have that they're dealing with, I didn't go through a lot of that stuff. So for me, it was just experimenting with shit, partying. I had an ego super high. I was making a couple of dollars, and I thought I was fucking big time, and I was not at all. But so I'm gonna pick up where I left off. All right, so I snorted the bag of dope with my homeboy, and I don't immediately transition to full-time heroin use. I still am doing the perks here and there, but if I can't find the perks, I'll do dope. So it ended up becoming it would become once a week or something. I couldn't find my pills, and I would have to get dope. And I remember the 3rd or 4th time doing dope, and I got some, and I think it was fentanyl, because it was so strong that I had this little like wastebasket in my room where I was living at the time, and I was just filling that joint up with fucking vomit, dump it out, fill it up with vomit. It was so bad, and I had 4 pills. In Baltimore, we sell dope and gel caps, like vegetable gel caps, and I remember I had gotten 4 of them. I did the one, and I got them through my homeboy's mom. Like, she had somebody's number, which is usually, like, when you have somebody's number, they usually have, the fire shit. And so I remember doing something, and I, even with doing fucking up to 300 milligrams of perks a day, like, this shit made me so sick. And I remember I called the lady back, and I'm like, you want these? Like, I'm good on these. You can come get them. And I remember she pulled up in front of my house. I went out, and I gave her back the 3 pills of dope because it made me so sick that I didn't even want it. I was like, I'm not fucking with that shit. A couple weeks later, I'm out, I'm drinking, I'm snorting coke, I'm getting booed up with my homeboys and shit. And I remember I'm coming down off the coke, and I go and get some dope. How the fuck is he gonna move? He's at a red light. Motherfucker in Baltimore not know how to drive, yo. It's like he's beeping at this man at a red light, like he's supposed to go straight through a red light. Alright, so I remember like this night I get some, and it just hit that spot. Like, mind you, I was doing perks all day. At this time I had perks. I don't know why I did dope. Like, I just thought, because at the time that perks weren't even getting me high anymore. I was just staying well, and so I needed something stronger. I felt like to come down off the coke, because coming down off stimulants, ecstasy, coke, Molly, whatever, all that shit. Molly is ecstasy, but all that shit's like that come down is terrible. That's why I've never been on the others. I don't understand people fuck with that shit. And I do some dope to come down, and it's some really good dope, but it wasn't fentanyl, I guess, or just whatever it was. Like, it was just the right amount to where, like, I really was like full throttle with that shit. I fell in love, and I was full time using dope, because I'm like, this shit is getting me high, and it's way cheaper. At the time I was spending like $200 to $300 a day on perks, and like $60 to $100 of dope was getting me way higher than that. And mind you, at this time, 2017, dope is starting to get pushed out, and fentanyl is getting brought in, and it's starting to get hard to find dope. So this fentanyl is, getting me high as hell, because it doesn't matter how much perks I'm doing. Damn, even the bus is running through red lights. This motherfucker's wild. But so I just, I fell in love with this shit, and I'm doing this shit every day, and it gets to the point to where, like, I'm doing like $300. Nah, I mean, my dope habit never got to 300, but it got to just like 150 area, and I don't know, like, I really don't know what happened. Like, I just started taking off my sales, one by one. Like, I always would mark myself on being good with business. Like, I'm good with numbers. I'd rather make $1 1,000 times than make $20 one time, which a lot of the youth and a lot of even grown men don't even seem to understand that concept. Especially when I moved down south, like, they do not have the business mindset. They're just straight, they're jacking shit. And so, like, when I don't know why, like, doing, because like I said, I was spending more on perks than I was spending on the dope. But like I wasn't burning bridges and shit when I was on the perks. But for some reason when I started doing dope, like it just makes me into a dark, just nasty person. Nobody wants to be around. Like I don't even want to be around. It's terrible. I started slowly, one by one, picking off my sales. I was burning sales to the point to where, I burnt up all my clientele. I had no more clientele. And here I am with a big dope habit. I have a dealer's habit, but I'm no longer a dealer, so I don't have a clientele no more. So, what do? I start resorting to, never got into burglary, but, robberies and, I really didn't like to steal. I always feel like as soon as I go into a store, their eyes are on me. I feel like I'm a fucking glue magnet. And I've never really been the type, even when I was in the midst of my addiction, I always had I might not have been wearing designer shit, but I stayed at least clean. You wouldn't look at me and think, oh yeah, that's a dope fiend at the time. And even though I was at my, that was bad. It's behind closed doors. And that's what I was saying in my last video, is growing up, I would look up to some people, that the old heads that did dope, and they were making enough money to where it looked okay. They made it look good, but like I said, I didn't see what they were going through behind closed doors. It's just nowadays with the social media, people make their lives look so great on social media, but really they're fucking miserable and they're broke. But they might go on vacation, with their family. Their parents might pay for a vacation 3 times a year, and they make sure that their parents get them nice outfits and shit. And during them couple times, they take these pictures on these beaches, and looking at their Instagram, you would think, oh, this person is living it up. Nah, but the whole time they living shitty. They got roaches in their house. Shit, some don't even have a house, but they living at their parents' house. Real shit. And these motherfuckers will fool you wearing designer belts and shit, but they living at their parents' house. Same shit with the dope game. Motherfuckers put on a good outfit. And even people who don't use drugs, but they're in the dope game, dealers who aren't making money like that, but they'll make themselves look nice as far as clothes go. They'll put on the facade, and you won't even know the difference because they'll have a car and shit, and they'll be getting by, but they make it look like they're rich, and they're not even close to rich. Do not let that shit fool you. This shit is a facade. The streets are a facade. It's all fake. It's a fitting of our imagination that we made up this thing, this code that nobody abides by behind closed door, behind that interrogation door. But they want to beat their chest in public and on Instagram and shit. My message is, to get the message to the youth that addiction does not discriminate. I'm not a tough guy. I never claimed to be no tough guy, and I will not. I might be a little bit crazy in the head, and I'm not going for nothing. I'm not ducking nothing, but I'm not looking for nothing either. I don't like conflict, but I'm not ducking nothing either. But so I get strung on dope real bad, and at this point, I moved back in with my dad. I'm living in my dad's basement. And he lives out in Baltimore County in the suburbs, so I'm transmuting every day from the suburbs to East Baltimore, which is probably a 15-minute drive, but by bus it's an hour and a half. Because you have to walk a good bit to get to the first bus stop, because he lives so far out in the suburbs that it's not really many buses that go through there. So you gotta walk a good bit to get to the first bus stop. But anyway, so that just becomes a nightmare, that whole going there. Some days I would be so down bad that, at the time, a pill of dope in Baltimore, like I said, a gel capsule of dope was $6. They had $10 and they had $6. And I remember times taking 2-hour bus trips to buy a $6 pill. Just crazy shit. Even the fiends out there flying the signs were Yeah, you came all the way down here for a $6 cap. That's it. Like, yeah, I mean, shit. At least it wouldn't even really get me at the gate because my habit was so high, but it was better than nothing. And when you don't have nothing, shit, you'll do anything for any little morsel of dope. Like, that's why, I'm not going to get into the jail stuff yet. I'm saving that for the future. I'm going to make this like a chronological series. I've been to jail in Baltimore, or the state of Maryland and the state of Mississippi. And, later on in my story, I moved down to Mississippi, and I'm going to get into the Mississippi gang culture, how, it's not really, you don't hear about Mississippi because it's a rural area. It's not a big city. I mean, Jackson is the biggest city, in the state with with the population of like, I want to say like 100,000, 130,000. It's not big. Like, there's not a lot of light shining on Mississippi, but, there's a lot of tough motherfuckers I met in Mississippi. Them boys down there, they breed different. Like, they strong. That term country strong, that's some real shit. Like, for real. Like, in Baltimore, it's a whole bunch of, like, skinny kids with guns. Down there, it's a whole bunch of fucking, like, big old, they're just yoked up, strong for no reason. Like, I got my ass handed to me a couple times down there. I'm gonna get into that. I went down there thinking, like, at the time I was so gone in my head and I was so into that, drug culture, street culture shit at the time, that I'm thinking I'm coming down here from Baltimore to this country ass, hick ass town. But, like, I quickly realized, like, their hoods are in the country. Like, I came to realize that poverty and country poverty and urban poverty are two different things. We have a lot of help up here in these liberal cities, or these liberal states, like Maryland, Massachusetts, fucking New York, Pennsylvania. We have a lot of help. Even though we have some of the most treacherous cities where, like, a lot of murders happen, poverty in the country is different because it's nothing. It's just woods with, like, a fucking shitty cabin. It's not literally, they're not living in cabins, but, like, there will be a house just in the woods, a rundown house in the middle of the woods, or in the middle of a bunch of land. And they didn't have Medicaid when I was living down there, which I don't understand because it's a federal program, like a federal, program. But I don't know. They didn't. I couldn't get Medicaid. I remember I had to pay for private insurance when I eventually would later get onto the methadone clinic. So I eventually would get onto the methadone clinic down there. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So, my habit is growing in Baltimore, and at the time I'm still living in my dad's house, and I burned off all my sales, and I'm starting to have to commit robberies and be a thief. And I fucking hate thieves, even to this day. Like, I've stolen from my loved ones, and that shit fucking hurt me. Like, that shit really hurt me. Like, I don't feel bad at all about stealing from corporations and shit like that. And I've heard people say, like, that, like, I know people who are drug addicts who will only rob their loved ones. They're afraid to get in legal trouble, and they know their loved ones ain't gonna do no legal trouble, or they're not gonna get no get back on them, because they're suburban ass, like, white collar, like, upper class families, and they just don't know what to do with their kid. They love their kids, and their kids are running wild, and their kids are robbing them blind, and it's just the most sick shit ever. Like, I stole a couple things from my dad, and it just makes me so sick to this day. I probably did it like 2 or 3 times, and one time it was like a really thin gold necklace. I got like $100. got a gram of dope. It's just so pathetic. Like, there's nothing cool about that shit. That, getting high shit. Like, to anybody that thinks that shit is cool, which I don't know why. I don't really think anybody thinks that, but there are some people. There's nothing cool about that. It's sick. And the lengths it took me, to the depths it took me, I never imagined I would do the shit I did. I didn't go as far as some people. There are some things I never reached. They say, in the rooms of NA and AA, they call them your yets, because they say, like, if you say, I never transitioned sexual encounters for drugs, I'm not as bad as this person, they say, yeah, you haven't done it yet. Stay out there long enough and you will do it. I don't think I would ever go to that lane, but I'm not trying to find out. And I know this addiction is progressive, and when they say it's progressive, it is. It only gets worse and worse and worse and worse. If you're truly an addict and you really have the addict gene, there's no using and then while you're using it gets better. No, it's only going to get worse, because it's literally like a beast in you, or it's like a parasite. And it's like heroin is a parasite, and it needs you to survive, and every time you feed it, it grows. And like, I heard somebody explain it like that, and that it really is accurate. That's exactly how it feels. Like, that monkey on your back grows into a motherfucking 8 the more you feed it that drug. It grows from a fucking chimp to a fucking 8. And my habit got so bad, I got to the point where I burned a couple dope boys at their dope spot. Like, it's different when you rob somebody who's working off a phone. You tell them to meet up, and you meet up with them one-on-one, or maybe they might have somebody with them in their car or whatever. But when you pull up to a dope spot, and they have a hitter, they have the pack runner, they have a lookout, some of them have security in the split, it's 5-6 people, not to mention the dope fiends hanging around on that block who support them. They're trying to do anything to get in the dealer's good graces. It can be 10 people, and there's been time, like, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, and I've done some crazy shit. I'm gonna get into some of them, but I'm gonna have, like, the crazy stories, I'm gonna break them down into individual stories and really get into them. Like, I'm gonna make a story about there's one dope spot I hit. I'm gonna make a story about how I hit this one he's an MMA dude, shredded up, like 210, straight muscle. Like, he would kick my fucking ass. But at the time, I just didn't give a fuck, especially about a fight. Like, I had real drug dealers out there put money on my head trying to kill me. Like, I didn't give, but like, even just the MMA dude, like, he could catch up with me right now. Like, I'm out here right now waiting on the bus. He could easily see me, remember me, pull up, get out with my ass. Like, shit, I didn't care about none of that, because at the time, like, I just felt like that's what came with it. And I honestly, like, ever since growing up, I never really expected myself to live to even be 25. And it's not because I lived in such a bad city and people were dying young all around me, which I'm sure played into effect subconsciously. But, like, I don't know, I just never game planned when I was a kid as an adult. Like, 'cause I couldn't foresee that far into the future, I guess, because it's hard to see yourself as something you never experienced. Like, obviously, as a kid, I haven't become an adult yet. So I can't picture myself as an adult, because I don't know what it's like to be an adult. You feel me? So, I was just reckless, and like, I'm gonna end this video here, where I'm gonna say I'm up to like $150 of dope a day, and I'm snorting too, mind you, at this time. I'm not banging, I guess. I just gotta try to watch, like, the YouTube guidelines and shit. How am I talking about the YouTube guidelines and not cussing in a sentence? Um, so I'm gonna leave it on that. I'm gonna pick it up the next video on that. And like I said, I have a whole bunch. I have stories for days, from different states, and I have stories from before my addiction started, just being in the streets. I have stories from being in my addiction in the streets. I have stories about life after addiction, life after the streets. Because, recovery, I thought it was going to be boring. Things going to be boring. Every day in recovery is an adventure, like, especially with a newborn son. And, my higher power has blessed me beyond belief. Basically, like, I look at it as, like, this is, like, my third life. I had my childhood, my adolescence, and my young adulthood. And then I had my drug-addicted life. And now I have my life after addiction. And it's crazy, like, what being at your low will bring you. Like, I'm super grateful for all the small things. Just having a roof over my head. Being able to shower. Being able to just go in a fridge and pull out a drink. Shit like that. I'm so grateful for all the small shit. And, I don't regret anything I did. My addiction has made me into the man who I am today. But my goal is to get it out there to kids that addiction does not discriminate. I started smoking weed, put my nose up at dope fiends, I never thought I would become a drug addict, but when you start to, experiment, like, the drugs slowly change your brain chemistry to the point to where, like, when it graduates, it's gradual. I went from weed to LSD to shrooms to ecstasy to Xanax to Percocets to dope. And, I was so afraid, just the word heroin as a kid. I remember in health class watching a documentary about heroin, and this kid who was on heroin and he died and shit, and it was just so crazy. Like, that shit, heroin was so dark for me, so evil, and it is. And but doing these drugs slowly, like, change your thought process. And when you grown up in the 90s or early 2000s, they would just tell you across the board everything is bad. Marijuana is bad, just as bad as dope. So when you smoke weed in it and you find out that that's not true, it's like, what else are they lying about? And so that right there throws off that whole narrative, and it makes you think that they're lying to you. So what else are they lying to you about? Is dope not that bad? Dope is that bad. Dope is worse than they make it to be. It's a living hell that you can't even imagine until you go through it on your own. And I hope none of y'all have to ever go through it. That's the whole point of this, to get the message out to the youth. Don't even smoke weed, don't pop pills, don't do none of that. Stay in school, focus on school. It doesn't matter if you're a square. If you're getting money, shit, the square away, shit, you getting money. What the fuck? Don't let nobody trick you out of your position. And it doesn't have to be somebody sending you back to prison. It could be you being on a good path and letting somebody influence you, the peer pressure, to, follow down that life that's the cool thing to do, the popular and thing to do, live in the streets, especially in Baltimore. Growing up in Baltimore, like, you see dope corners and you see all that stuff, and you see people with the nice cars and the nice clothes, and there's not many good jobs in the city, but there is a way. And don't take the easy way out, because the easy way always ends up becoming the long way. It's like taking a shortcut and you get lost on that shortcut, and it ends up becoming way longer than if you just took the long route to begin with. With that, I'm out.